Cool, thank you. I am the Cedric Bowler from a solution architect at AWS. I also go by D, as you heard Ron call me. Um, I'm going to talk to you today about cloud security, mostly in AWS. I'll talk about some of our partners. So I'll just move to the agenda. So we're going to talk about incident response. We're going to talk about some of our key services for incident response, such as Amazon Guard Duty and AWS Security Hub. We'll reference some of our community of partners that we have and how you can leverage those partners in our ecosystem and across your hybrid cloud environment. We'll talk about ransomware, some of the best practices there, and we'll do some Q&A. So these are large topics. I'll hit on some of these today. If there's questions or interest in going deeper in these, feel free to let me know. We'll make sure that we get you the right resource to take a deeper dive. So we'll start with incident response, and we'll start with just make sure we level set on what incident response is, right? So incident response is really a critical component for every organization's security posture. And it's really the ability to detect, mitigate, and respond to threats in your environment. And in order to have and build an effective incident response program, organizations must have these three things: train staff to identify possible security threats in your environment, well-documented procedures for performing triage and getting your environment secure once you've been breached or prevent breaches, and well-instrumented technology for logging, monitoring, investigating, and recovering. And throughout this presentation, I'll talk more about some of those technologies and how they can be applied. And just to kind of point out, if you have an on-prem or an existing cloud that may not be AWS, these things are universal that I just mentioned as far as what you need for an effective incident response program. So no matter if you're on cloud or in your on-prem environment, you still need these skill sets to build an effective plan. So we'll kind of start with the incident response lifecycle. And this will be key throughout our presentation. So it's really preparation can be mixed with identification. So identifying your resources, being prepared that you know what to detect. We'll kind of focus on detection and analysis. So detection is really the ability to identify potential threats in your environment. Do you have the right tooling? Do you have the right skill sets to do that in your environment today? And then analysis is the ability to determine if the threat is real or if it's normal behavior. And once you've detected that it's a real threat, the next cycle in the process is contain, eradicate, and recover. So you want to either contain that threat, you want to get rid of that threat, and then recover from it in case of, say, like a ransomware attack that we'll cover later. And then your post-incident activity is really how do we prevent this from happening again in the future? So I kind of hit on this already, but what are some of the incident responses in the cloud and how do they differ from on-prem? So in the cloud, as we start talking about the AWS services, you'll notice that the control plane, basically that they're as a service that we offer. You're not having to build out servers or manage infrastructure or manage the software. You're just configuring and using the service. That's the part that changes. Then you have the additional logs, such as like in AWS, if you're familiar, you have your VPC flow logs or some the database logs for RDS that you may not have on-prem today that you need to add, right? And the other thing is one of the major differences is the scalability. So the cloud services are not infrastructure confined, so they're able to scale at your demand and be able to respond to attacks as they're happening in real time. Some of the things that are the same is, as I mentioned before, the process for incident response remains the same. You still need the subject matter experts. Sometimes as you start thinking about cloud, security is the afterthought, right? But you still need those subject matter experts to identify those critical incidents that happen in your environment and be able to effectively respond to those. And then the same concepts of protecting and logging, right? Protecting your endpoints and logging still apply. So we'll move further into some of the technologies. So Amazon Guard Duty. Amazon Guard Duty, for those of you not familiar, is a threat detection service that we offer at AWS. It is basically what it does. It continuously monitors your AWS accounts and workloads for malicious activity and looks for anomalies such as Bitcoin mining, things like unusual behavior. If you have a substantial amount of EC2s or servers being spun up that are outside of your normal workloads, unusual network traffic. So it has machine learning capabilities built in. So I'll move forward on the guard duty discussion. So really, guard duty is our machine learning automated threat detection system that looks for unusual behavior in your environment and allows you to alert to either our AWS Security Hub that we'll talk about next and third parties such as either our CloudWatch events or third party partners, SIM solutions or your ticketing systems. And I'll go to the next slide. So just a little bit more about Security Hub. So the main use case for Security Hub is to allow you to centralize your logs from all of the services that we have at AWS, including Guard Duty, Inspector, Macy, our firewall services. But it also allows you to send your third-party data. So if you say, or if you're using Palo Alto or CloudStrike within the cloud, you can centralize those findings into Security Hub. And Security Hub also offers compliance measures. So it allows you to have compliance standards that you set. Those findings get measured against your compliance settings that you configure, and then alerts you if you're out of compliance with those settings. That's to the left. And to the right, you're able to send those findings to either services like AWS Lambda, where you can put automation in place, or you can send it to third parties that we'll go take a deeper dive into next to take action from your normal phase systems that you have set up on-prem or across your hybrid cloud environment. So we have a large community of partners in the security space. So when adopting cloud, not just AWS, there are a ton of options to choose from security services. So on this green splash, this displays the partners that we have that you can leverage that maybe you already know and trust from on-prem or managing these same technologies across multiple clouds, including your data center. So both of these are common patterns where we see companies leverage AWS native services or leverage third partner solutions. And these decisions normally come down to the maturity that the company has in the cloud, their existing skill sets and processes, and their approach to cloud altogether. So if they're going to have a single cloud or if they're multi-cloud, in most cases, when you're multi-cloud, you want to select services that you can use across clouds so that you can just take your skill sets and scale them instead of having unique pockets across your cloud infrastructure. All right, move quickly into ransomware protection and recovery. So quick definition, I'm sure you're all by now familiar with what ransomware is, but it's really when an attacker uses technologies to extort money from corporations. And what this typically looks like is they get access to your data through some type of vulnerability. They encrypt your data, and they ask you for money to get access back to your data, crippling the company and or causing them not to be able to continue business. Right. I'll hit on just a few of these. Why is ransomware effective? Typically, some of the major ones are bad patching policies, where companies, from a security standpoint, have exposed vulnerabilities. Organizations struggle with privileged access management, and we have a tool, AWS Access Analyzer, that helps with that. But really, it's just overly permissive access, where you're giving too much access to users. The third one is open trust models within an organization, so the lack of network segmentation. And the fourth one would be security staff that doesn't have any automated processes, just manual processes to go through and either identify or remediate findings that they see in the environment. I'll build a slide out before, sorry about that. So just going back, so for ransomware, you'll notice that the life cycle for ransomware is very similar to the one for AR. To the left, you're identifying your resources through services like AWS Config and Systems Manager. Then you move into the protect phase, where you're actually looking for and investigating against your assets or services by using like firewalls or Amazon Guard Duty. And then in the middle, you have your detect and response area, where you detected a a finding, and now you need to do something about it. So you take action on it. Then the last part, and this is what we're going to talk about at the end of this presentation, is you have your backup for recovery. So kind of talk through that. So in most cases, when ransomware attacks are successful, the company has two options. It's either recover from backup or pay the ransom. And here's a typical model that we see deployed in AWS. And we also have partners that have similar solutions you can kind of plug and play here, where you have, say, a corporate data center, or that could be one of your cloud accounts on your left here, where you have your backups taking place. And then you'll replicate those backups to another account or to an AWS environment, where you're storing them in a secure location, such as our S3 environment, where you can use things like object lock, and you won't be able to change or modify the object that's in the S3 bucket. And what that does for you is, if you have encrypted data in your data center, you've been exposed, oftentimes the backups also get changed or encrypted because they're allowed to. But if you have object lock, your objects won't be able to get encrypted that have been copied over. And what it'll allow you to do is you'll be able to go through it, identify the threat when it was put there, remediate it, and have a way to remediate it. And then before you open up the objects in your secure S3 bucket, you can remove that threat and then be able to restore your backups. There's a list of backup partners. Some of the most popular ones are Commvault, Cohesity, NetApp, Veeam, some of the major players that are partners of ours in this space and have built-in capabilities. So if you're using those partners today, you could work with us or your partners to leverage these same technologies in AWS and have a air gap solution for ransomware put in place for your organization. Thank you. That ends my presentation.